Welcome to my channel. My name is Jody, and this is my first Book Squirrel video. And I'm thinking I'm going to do these every 6 months just to talk about the books that I've been reading. And this first video is going to be the last 8 months because at the end of 2024, about October, I watched a YouTube channel called Fabric Patch. And it's a mother and daughter. They own a quilt shop in Ephrata, Washington, and they both read. And so they started a book club. So some of the books that I've read were suggestions they had in the book club. And so back when I was young, I would read, and I'm talking, I read Little House on the Prairie books. I read Little Women. But when I got into high school and they made you read, Of Mice and Men, The Pearl, stuff like that, I didn't like to read after that. And so when I was about 19, my oldest sister bought me Stephen King's It. And so that started me reading again. But then I had to have a monster. If I was going to read a book, there had to be some sort of monster in it. So that has recently changed. And so I really liked reading Stephen King books. And I apologize if you hear my husband mowing. It's been a chaotic week. All the rain that we got, our basement flooded, so perfect time to make a video, isn't it? So anyhow, so let me start with the first two books that I DNF'd. And if you're not familiar what DNF means, it means did not finish. And another term that I've seen on BookTube is TBR, which means to be read, which is all of this. And back in a video, I think in October, I cleaned off a shelf about this big for my books. And as you see, I quickly outgrew that little shelf. So this is the first bookshelf I have ever had in my entire life. I love it. It's my prized possession. So when I'm not sewing in my sewing room, I will come out here and I will read. And I also take a book to work with me, and I read my car before I go into work. So I'm reading 2 books at a time. So, like I said, this video is going to be 8 months. It'll be the last 2 months of 2024 and the first 6 months of 2025. So the first 2 books that I did not finish or DNF'd was All Our Yesterdays. I read like the first 3 or 4 chapters, and it's not for me. It's about time travel, and I just didn't get into it, so I didn't finish it. And the other one, which surprised me, was Stephen King's, I gotta glare, The Eyes of the Dragon. I think this was his first, maybe, attempt at a fantasy, and it was just too slow for me. And so, yeah, I think I got about 100 pages in, and not for me. So then the BookTube channel, let's see, well, first let me talk about this book, The Big Dark Sky by Dean Koontz. I normally like Dean Koontz, and this book was really good, and it's like 5 different characters all over, I guess, the US, and they're coming together. But it was like the book just, it ended too rushly, or what's the word I'm looking for? It just felt rushed, and I didn't like that. It was just, they all got together and bing, bang, boom, and it was over. So I didn't like that one, but I did finish it. So then another book I finished, this one was 2024, was Nosferatu by Joe Hill. Love this book. Love the show that was on, I forget what channel it was on, but yeah, that was a good book. So, and my goal is to only have on my bookshelf books that make me happy. So I might read them again, I might not. But this one will go back on the shelf because I wouldn't mind reading it again. And then the first book I read from that book club was The September House by Carissa Orlando. This was a really good book. And it just talks about, every September, this couple buys the perfect house. And the only problem is every September, the walls bleed, the ghosts come out. And so the husband goes missing and the daughter's coming to visit to find out what's going on. So that was a really good book. So I liked it. This one will go back on the shelf. And then I read, let's see, my first fantasy book. That was Fourth Wing. Love this book. And it's part of a series. And if you know me, I think there's going to be 4, maybe 5 books in this series. And right now there's only 3 books out. And the author, Rebecca Yarros, is taking a break. So we might not get the 4th book until maybe 2026 or later. So I read Fourth Wing. I read immediately after Iron Flame. And then I read the 3rd book, came out in January this year. I read Onyx Storm. So I have read all 3 books that's out so far. And so my OCD is kicking in. And so I made myself a rule. I always have to have rules. And I will not start another series unless all the books in the series are complete. So I'm sticking to it. If it's going to take a year and a half maybe to get the 4th book, I don't know. So then I read, let me get it out here. Kind of silly, but I read Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. I always wanted to read the book. I read it. I liked it. And I'm not going to put it back on the shelf. I'll find a free library or somewhere for it. But another book that the book club suggested was Ask for Andrea by Noelle Eiley. I guess that's how you pronounce the last name. Love this book. And there's no monsters. This is a thriller, which I had never read a thriller before. And this one's about 3 women who are killed by the same guy. So it's not a mystery, you know who the killer is. But in the afterlife, they're kind of ghosts. And they come together to get him. So this was a great book. So that was my first thriller. Loved it. This one will go back on the shelf. And then another book that the book club suggested was The Invisible Life by Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book's going back on the shelf. Love this book. It's kind of split between like 300 years ago and current day. The Addie LaRue, she makes a bargain with I assume was a devil or a demon. And the deal is she can live forever until she says she's had enough. And the only problem is people forget her. And she agrees to it. So you go through a lot of, she meets people, but as soon as they leave the room and come back in, they don't recognize her anymore. So she has to be reintroduced and all that stuff. But then one time she goes into a bookstore and she goes back a couple days later and the guy remembers her. So that's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Loved it. So then I read, I gotta pile of books here. I read The Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. And this is a duology, so there's 2 books. And so I read both The Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch. These are going back up on the bookshelf. I love this story. And it's about a witch. And in this land that they live in, witches are hunted and killed. And her and I think he's the captain of the witch hunters, they play cat and mouse with each other, and then, they end up falling for each other. But love this book. I love that series. And then after that one, I immediately read One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. Another book that's going back on the shelf, and it was a duology too. So there was One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. Such pretty books. Yeah. Love this story. This one, yeah, it's people, there's a mist that's kind of closed off this town, and people that get infected, they end up dying, or they hunt them down and kill them. But yeah, she ends up with what they call the monster is in her head, and there's a magic system that uses like tarot cards, and so they're hunting all these tarot cards, and they give the holder of the card different powers. So it's a really good book, or good series. I keep saying book. It's a series. So then I bought a Kindle, and I read Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. It was all right, And then Voices in the Snow, which is a series, but I think it could be a standalone, the first one. And I'm not going to finish that series. So, and then I read Agatha Christie's Midwinter Murder. I'm not an Agatha Christie fan, apparently. I didn't like that one. So I don't know if it's mysteries I don't like, or if it was her writing, but it all seemed to be from, I don't know, it reminded me of the time of when, like, Jack the Ripper, that era, I didn't like it. So then I read another book that the book club suggested, was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This was a really good book, but I'm not going to keep it on the shelf. It kind of is set between current day in London and, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago. There's an apothecary that the owner helps women off the men that have wronged them, and things go awry with the apothecary when a woman comes in and she wants to kill another woman. And so the current lady, she finds a remnant from the apothecary, and so she is trying to solve the mystery or learn the story of this apothecary. So this was really good, but it's not good enough to stay on the bookshelf. So that was Lost Apothecary. And then one of the best books I've read is Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I think he's the author of The Martian. It's like a movie. And this, I heard, is going to be in the movie theaters March of 2026. So I've already told my husband we're going to go see it, and he figured we would anyway. But love this story. This is the sun is dying, and it's almost like it's being infected with this black, I forget what they call it, stuff. But him and a crew are sent a one-way mission to a planet that has a sun that is not being affected by the black stuff, where all the other planets around are. And so they're sent there to solve the mystery. And he goes there, and his crew is dead. He's the only survivor. And he's not alone out in the universe. So, love this book. This one almost made me cry. Well, it was to the point where I couldn't look down and read. I had tears in my eyes. I guess you could say this one made me cry. But yeah, this one's going back up on my bookshelf. That one I would reread again. And then, like I said, I read when I go to work. I get to work about a half hour early, and I sit in the car and I read. And the books that I'm reading are, it is The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. This book, let me tell you, there's a part in one of this is a series of like 7 books, and I am on book 6 of the 7, and there was one part of the story that did make me cry. But this is about a robot who has overrode his governor module. And so he is working with people, and the story is told by him. And he likes to watch movies, old, like, I don't know, sci-fi movies. And I don't know, he starts caring for the people he's working with. They become some sort of a family to him. And I don't, it's a really good book. But yeah, there was a part in this book, or one of the books, that almost made me cry. So there was this one. And there's also the Fourth Wing book. The best part of that series are the dragons. And that last book, the Black Onyx, about 3/4 of the way through the book, I bawled like a baby. So I'm not going to tell you what happened, but I cried. I'm a grown woman, and I cried reading that book. So that's the current book. I think 6 out of the 7. The one I'm reading now is called Network Effect. I'm almost done with it, so I'm going to hate when that series ends. But no. Murderbots is going back up on the bookshelf. Love that. And it's science fiction. This and Hail Mary, science fiction. Never in my life would I dream that I would like science fiction. I like science fiction. And then the last book that I'm currently reading is Stephen King's Fairy Tale. It's a brick, but I am almost done with it. It's really good. It's slow in parts, but I love the story. It's about a kid who befriends an old man, and he finds that this old man has a secret out in his shed, and it's sort of a portal to another world type. And so he's there trying to save a dog. So I love this book too. So this one will probably go back up on the shelf too, depending on how it ends. But yeah. So that's what I've been reading. It's a pile of books. And as you see, I am growing quite the selection. But I love it. When I'm done with the book, I come over here, and every single book on these shelves I want to read. And that's wonderful. And you know, like these books here, they're part of a series, but it's not complete. So I'm not reading them, you know, that type of thing. You know me and my OCD. So this is the first book squirrel video. So yeah, so when I'm not in my sewing room sewing, I'm out here reading. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope this wasn't scatterbrained like I am. And I hope the lawnmower outside wasn't too distracting, but not my best video. But it's my first book squirrel video. So I will see you in 6 months. Stay safe. Bye for now.